Welcome back to the channel, and I'm excited to be diving into the reaction of House of the Dragon season finale on here because the online response has been kind of a little intense and insane. And I'd like to talk about it a little bit and just give you my thoughts on it. I've waited to do this video because I wanted to see what the showrunner, what Ryan, who is the showrunner of House of the Dragon, has to say. Knowing the reaction of the season finale, I had my thoughts, I had my hunches as to what happened there, and we'll get into that in a second. But thank you for joining me. Be sure to like this video and comment. Let me know what you thought of the season finale. Okay, so I I suspected HBO does this a lot. They did it with True Detective. I'm seeing them do it here. Sometimes as a showrunner, from what I've read with articles, you kind of have to work with what you get, right? And so if HBO comes to you and says, we're going to give you, 6 episodes or 8 episodes, and that's it. In the prior season, you received 10 episode count. HBO likes to shrink their episode count, and I've seen this, and I honestly, like, it kind of drives me a little insane when I see this. I kind of wish they didn't do this because I felt like overall that season, the latest season of True Detective, was great overall. I did feel like there were some points where the storytelling was a little rushed, and I wish they would have had at least 1 or 2 episodes to kind of flesh out a couple characters, maybe, and a couple story points. Anyways, with season 2 House of the Dragon, we went from 10 episodes season 1 to 8 season 2. Now, I'm going to read. Ryan did a sort of like a press conference after, with a group of journalists, after we're going to call it the controversial season 2 finale. He says, and I quote, "One of the challenges of making television at any scale is nobody has infinite time and resources." What does that tell you? That tells you that HBO stepped in and said, we're only going to give you this much with this much, and figure out your story within these parameters. That's what I read out of that. I'm reading between the lines here. Infinite time and resources. When you're a showrunner, you're always in the position of having to balance storytelling and the resources that you have to tell that story. So that tells me that at some point in the process, they had to look at how much money they were given, what the episode count, and they had to think about, well, what story can they tell within those parameters. This happens all the time. I don't know if you've noticed this trend, but we're getting seasons that are shorter and shorter and shorter. And so this isn't new. At least it isn't new for me. I'm seeing this happen a lot. So, with 2 more seasons to go after this one, the creative team behind House of the Dragon decided to push the climactic Battle of the Gauntlet, which is one of the most anticipated events from the Fire and Blood book the series is based on, to the start of season 3. So, could you imagine? Like, just picture this. Okay, I'm HBO. I'm going to Ryan. I'm saying, hey, I'm giving you 10 episodes and this amount of money to work with to tell the story for the season. I think Ryan would have taken those 10 episodes and probably included that battle in those 10 episodes. But because he was given not 10, but 8, I don't know how much money he was given, but probably not as much as the first season, I would think. Maybe more. I don't know. I have no idea. He and his team had to work around those limitations. So he goes on to say, we wanted to rebalance the story in such a way that we had 3 great seasons of television after season 1 to round out and tell the story. when you're trying to mount the show, which requires a tremendous amount of resources, construction, armor, costume, visual effects, this show, guys, is very expensive to produce. Probably one of the most expensive shows to produce. So we are trying to give that battle, which is arguably the second most anticipated action event of Fire and Blood, trying to give it the time and the space that it deserves. So honestly, like, I me personally, I'm okay that we didn't get that battle at the end of the season. I've talked to many of my friends who watch the show, are fans of the show. A lot of them, if not all of them, thought that season 2 was better than season 1. And I am always going to advocate for character development, character arcs that are just superb. And I can say that the stuff that came out of this season was so well done, and I was so happy with it. I feel like coming out of season 2, I've fallen more and more in love with these characters, which I want, right? And I want a great setup. We want a great setup for battles. We want the stakes to be higher and higher and higher. Well, at least some of us do. Not all of us. A lot of you want blood and fire, and it seems like, I don't know if this is accurate, we want battles. We want dragon battles. We want blood, but we don't want character development. That's what it feels like to me. You want instant gratification. You want to be satisfied. And I honestly, like, I don't know. I don't know how well that stands up the test of time. Listen, Game of Thrones, man, the thing that I fell in love with Game of Thrones was not the battles. I mean, the battles were great. They were great, and the timing of them were great. But there was so much character work in that show that I thoroughly enjoyed and thoroughly loved, that it just made for battles to be even more like heavy, and oh my gosh, this is happening. And like, the setups were so well done. Why? Because of the character work. Okay, enough of that. So so of course, many fans would argue that the battle would make a suitable climactic ending, like, right, ending to the House of Dragon season 2, but we can see the logic pushing it back to the third season so it can be as big and epic as it needs to be. So I'm okay with that. There were two really big moments in the season finale. One was obviously Rhaenyra and Alicent's, little chat that they had. And the other really massive moment was Damon's arc. He spent nearly the entire season in Harrenhal and having to deal with his demons and really being confronted and humbled by the end of it. And I just, like, that whole scene was so intense. Like, it was to me a battle for, their relationship, a battle for the Iron Throne, a battle for the future, a battle for everything that obviously happened in Games of Thrones. All of those story points, some of them were not really crazy about. I mean, minus how all of that stuff ended. Okay, fine, whatever. Just the implications, a battle of the implications of this entire story, and what part these people play, and all of that. I just felt the weight of that, and I felt like that was a great conclusion to the season. The season was more about characters and their relationships and the loss and how you deal with the loss. How does Rhaenyra deal with the grief? How does Alicent deal with, her decision, and what she started by misinterpreting what her husband was saying at his deathbed, right? So here are some comments that I've seen on Instagram, on X. Should have been 10 episodes. Yes, I would have to agree. The most anticlimactic episode all season. I would have to disagree. House of the Dragging. I would also have to disagree. Great episode, but not season finale worthy. I would like to know what season finale worthy is, because there's a lot of shows out there that don't have battles, that don't have fights. I believe that the finale was an excellent blend of payoffs. That's what I believe. Mainly with characters, okay? And set up for war to come. I've seen a lot of people uh, all over social media be mad that they didn't get another giant battle, not understanding that without the setup, it would not be satisfying in the slightest. Let me just, I'm telling you, like I have seen things that just, they rush, seen stuff where they rush things and it falls flat. You could spill as much blood as you want. You can have as many people die. But if the setup isn't there, it falls flat. And I feel like people are forgetting that there were some season finales of Games of Thrones that almost never had giant events. They were mostly about wrapping up after the penultimate episode payoff, setting up for the next season. So the push for cheap and fast gratification, I don't know if that's a TikTok generation thing. I have no idea. Listen, I don't know what people are thinking when they think about what a great season finale is. I don't know. And I feel like people are forgetting that it took multiple seasons for many major Game of Thrones payoffs to happen. 4 seasons from the first mention of a king beyond the wall before there was a spectacular battle. 4 seasons for Joffrey's death. Like we had to deal with him for 4 seasons. And the list goes on and on and on. So those are my thoughts. I just think that we can't have great battles without great setups. And they did that. They did that this season. And I loved this season very much. And so until next time.